I never thought dying in the snow would be what finally brought him to me. 4 hours I waited, freezing, forgotten. Then, Nolan Ricci, the most dangerous man in Chicago, tore through a snowstorm to save my life. And when his hands touched mine, everything changed. This is the story of how a Christmas Eve I'll never forget became the beginning of a love I never saw coming. Before we begin, I need your help reaching 1,000 subscribers. If you love stories of danger, devotion, and unexpected romance, hit that subscribe button. And I'm curious, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Are you cozied up at home? Commuting? Working out? I love knowing where my stories find you. I never thought freezing to death would feel so quiet. The snow had been falling for hours, thick and relentless, burying the streets of Chicago in a blanket of white that would have been beautiful if I wasn't slowly losing feeling in my fingers. My breath came out in short, visible puffs, each one a little weaker than the last. I pulled my thin coat tighter around my body, but it was useless. The fabric was soaked through, clinging to my skin like ice. Christmas Eve, of all the nights to be forgotten. I'd been working for the Ricci family for 2 years now. Not in the glamorous way people imagine when they hear MAFIA. No guns, no drama, no sitting in on secret meetings. I was an accountant. Numbers, spreadsheets, making sure the legitimate businesses stayed clean while the dirty money got laundered through proper channels. It was boring work mostly, but it paid well, and I'd learned early on not to ask questions. Nolan Ricci wasn't the kind of man you questioned anyway. I'd only spoken to him directly a handful of times. He was the kind of presence that filled a room the moment he walked in. 6'4" of pure muscle and menace, with tattoos crawling up his neck and disappearing under expensive suits that probably cost more than my rent. His face was all sharp angles and dark intensity, with eyes so cold they could freeze you mid-sentence. Everyone feared him. Even his own men walked on eggshells around him. I feared him too, but there was something else there. Something I'd never admit out loud. The way he'd looked at me during our last encounter, when I'd stayed late to finish the quarterly reports. He'd come into the office after midnight, surprised to find anyone there. His eyes had traveled over me slowly, assessment and something darker flickering in their depths. "You work too hard, Miss Grant," he'd said, his voice like gravel and whiskey. Then he'd left, but not before I'd caught the smallest hint of interest? Approval? I couldn't be sure. That was 3 weeks ago. Now here I sat, abandoned in the parking lot of one of his warehouses on the outskirts of the city, wondering if anyone would even notice I was missing until after the holiday. It had been Marcus's fault. He was supposed to drive me back to the office after I'd finished cataloging inventory, but he'd gotten a call about some emergency at the docks. "Just wait here," he'd said. "I'll send someone." That was 4 hours ago. My phone had died an hour in, and the warehouse was locked up tight. No one was coming. The cold was getting worse. I couldn't feel my toes anymore, and my thoughts were starting to get fuzzy around the edges. I knew what that meant. Hypothermia. I'd read about it once, how peaceful it was supposed to be at the end, how you just drifted off to sleep. I didn't want to sleep. I was only 26. There was so much I hadn't done yet. My eyes were starting to close when I heard it, the low rumble of an engine, too powerful to be any ordinary car. Then headlights cut through the snow, bright and blinding. I tried to lift my head, tried to call out, but my body wouldn't cooperate. The engine cut off, a car door slammed, then footsteps, quick and heavy, crunching through the snow. Jesus Christ. The voice was familiar, rough with something that might have been panic. Strong hands gripped my shoulders, and I forced my eyes open to find Nolan Ricci's face inches from mine, his usual cold mask shattered by something raw and furious. Amelia, look at me." I tried to speak, but my lips wouldn't move. He cursed again, more viciously this time. And then I was being lifted like I weighed nothing. His body was so warm, like a furnace against my frozen skin. I wanted to press closer, to steal every bit of that heat, but I couldn't make my muscles work. "Stay with me," he commanded, carrying me toward his car. It was a black Mercedes, sleek and expensive, idling with the heat blasting. He placed me carefully in the passenger seat, then stripped off his suit jacket and wrapped it around me. It smelled like expensive cologne and something distinctly him, cedar and smoke and power. He got in the driver's side and immediately cranked the heat higher, then reached over to pull off my wet coat. "This needs to come off. It's making you colder." His hands were surprisingly gentle as he peeled the soaked fabric away from my body, though his jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Marcus," I managed to whisper. "Marcus is going to wish he was dead when I'm done with him," Nolan said, his voice dropping to something lethal. He grabbed a blanket from the back seat and tucked it around me, his hands lingering on my shoulders. "How long have you been out here?" 4 hours. The sound he made was somewhere between a growl and a curse. He pulled off his own shirt without warning, revealing a torso that looked carved from marble and covered in intricate tattoos. Saints and sinners, angels and demons, all inked in stunning detail across his chest and abs. Before I could process what was happening, he was pulling me against him, skin to skin, wrapping his arms around me. "Body heat," he explained gruffly. "Fastest way to warm you up." I should have been embarrassed. I should have protested. Instead, I pressed closer, chasing the warmth radiating from him like a dying woman finding salvation, which I supposed I was. His heart was pounding against my cheek, fast and hard. One of his hands came up to cradle the back of my head, his fingers threading through my wet hair. "You're okay," he murmured, and I wasn't sure if he was reassuring me or himself. "You're going to be okay." We sat like that for several minutes, the only sound the blast of the heater and my gradually steadying breathing. Feeling was starting to return to my extremities, bringing with it a painful tingling sensation that made me whimper. "I know," Nolan said quietly. "I know it hurts. Just breathe through it." How did you find me?" I asked when I could finally form words. His arms tightened around me. "I was going over the security logs for the week. Saw that your access card had been used at this warehouse but never logged out. No one could tell me where you were. Marcus said he'd taken care of it." The way he said those words made it clear that Marcus's definition of taking care of it and Nolan's were very different things. "It's Christmas Eve," I said stupidly. "I'm aware." "You were working. I'm always working." He pulled back slightly to look down at me, his dark eyes searching my face. Up close, I could see flecks of gold in the brown, could count the small scars that marked his olive skin. "How are you feeling?" "Warmer." It was true. Between his body heat and the car's heater, I was no longer in danger of becoming a popsicle. But I didn't want to move away. Being held by Nolan Ricci felt dangerous and safe all at once, like standing at the edge of a cliff. He seemed to read my thoughts because his lips curved into the smallest smile I'd ever seen from him. "You're not going anywhere yet. Not until I'm sure you're stable." His thumb brushed across my cheek, and I realized with mortification that I was crying. Delayed shock, probably. "Hey, none of that." "I thought I was going to die," I admitted, my voice breaking. Something shifted in his expression, going from concern to pure rage. "That's never going to happen again. Do you understand me?" "Never." The intensity in his voice made me shiver for an entirely different reason. "Anyone in my organization who forgets about you, who leaves you behind, who puts you in danger, I'll bury them myself." It should have scared me. The casual way he talked about violence, about murder. But all I felt was protected, cherished even. "Why do you care?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Nolan's hand stilled in my hair. For a long moment he didn't answer, just stared at me with those intense eyes. Finally he said, "Do you know how many people work for me, Amelia?" I shook my head. "Hundreds, across all the businesses, legitimate and otherwise. Do you know how many of them I've personally gone looking for in a snowstorm on Christmas Eve?" My breath caught. "How many?" 1. His thumb traced my lower lip, the touch sending electricity through my entire body. Just 1. The air in the car suddenly felt too thick, too charged. I was acutely aware of every point where our bodies touched, of the heat building between us that had nothing to do with hypothermia. His eyes dropped to my mouth, and I saw his jaw clench with restraint. "We should get you somewhere warm," he said, his voice rougher than before. "Properly warm. My house is closer than your apartment." I should have said no, should have insisted on going home. But I found myself nodding instead, unable to break away from his gaze. He carefully released me, though his hand lingered on my arm, as if he couldn't quite let go. Then he was pulling his shirt back on and putting the car in gear, driving through the snowy streets with one hand on the wheel and the other resting on my thigh, like he needed to maintain that physical connection. Chicago at night was beautiful during Christmas, all lit up with decorations and covered in fresh snow. But I barely noticed. All I could focus on was the man beside me, the dangerous, powerful man who dropped everything to save me. "Marcus really didn't mean to forget me," I said quietly. "I'm sure it was just... Don't." Nolan's voice was sharp. "Don't make excuses for him. He had one job, and he failed. There are consequences for failure in my organization." "But it's Christmas. I don't give a damn what day it is." He glanced over at me, his expression softening slightly. "You almost died because of his negligence. Do you think I'm going to let that slide?" Put that way, I couldn't really argue. I fell silent, watching the city pass by, trying not to think about what he might do to Marcus, trying not to feel guilty about the warm satisfaction that came from knowing Nolan Ricci cared enough to be angry on my behalf. His house was in one of the wealthy suburbs, a modern mansion that was all clean lines and expensive architecture. He pulled into the garage and was around to my side before I could even unbuckle my seatbelt, lifting me into his arms again. "I can walk," I protested weakly. "Humor me." He carried me through a mudroom and into a sprawling kitchen that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. Everything was top of the line, from the marble countertops to the professional-grade appliances. But it was strangely empty. Not physically. It was fully furnished, but emotionally, like no one actually lived here. Nolan set me down on one of the bar stools and immediately went to the coffee maker, moving with the efficiency of someone who knew his way around a kitchen. "You need something hot to drink. Coffee? Tea?" "Tea, please." While he worked, I took the opportunity to really look at him. Without his suit jacket, wearing just his dress shirt and slacks, he looked somehow more dangerous. The shirt was fitted enough to show off his muscular frame, and I could see the edges of his tattoos peeking out at his collar and wrists. His dark hair was slightly mussed from the wind, making him look less like the polished crime boss and more like, well, like a man. A devastatingly attractive man who'd just saved my life. He caught me staring and raised an eyebrow. "See something interesting, Miss Grant?" The formal address, combined with the heat in his eyes, made my stomach flip. "Thank you," I said instead of answering, "for coming to find me, for everything." He placed a steaming mug of tea in front of me, then leaned against the counter, crossing his arms over his broad chest. "You don't need to thank me. This never should have happened in the first place. Still, you didn't have to." "Yes," he interrupted, his voice intense. "I did. Do you have any idea what went through my mind when I realized you were missing? When I thought about you out there, alone, freezing?" He pushed away from the counter and moved closer, bracketing me with his arms as his hands gripped the counter on either side of me. "I've done a lot of terrible things, Amelia. I've hurt people. I've killed people. I've built an empire on blood and fear. But the thought of something happening to you..." He trailed off, his eyes searching mine. "That scared me more than anything has in years." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. We were so close, his lips just inches from mine, his body radiating heat and tension. "Nolan, tell me to stop," he said quietly. "Tell me this is inappropriate, that I'm your boss, that this crosses every line. Give me any reason to walk away. I should have. God, I should have. But instead, I whispered, "What if I don't want you to walk away?" The sound he made was pure masculine satisfaction. His hand came up to cut my face, thumb stroking my cheek with surprising tenderness for such a dangerous man. "Then I'm going to kiss you, and we're both going to stop pretending we haven't been thinking about this for months." He didn't wait for a response. His lips crashed against mine, claiming me with a possessiveness that should have scared me, but instead set my entire body on fire. The kiss was demanding, consuming, like he was trying to pour every bit of pent-up desire into this one moment. I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I want you in my life, Amelia. Not just as an employee, not just for tonight, really in it. But I need you to understand what that means, what I am, what my world is like. I know what you are. Do you?" His voice was rough. "Do you know that people will try to use you against me? That being with me puts a target on your back? That my enemies won't hesitate to hurt you to get to me?" I pulled back to look him in the eyes. "Do you know that I've been half in love with you since the first time you smiled at one of my budget reports? That I've spent the last 2 years pretending I don't feel anything because I thought you'd never look at me twice? That tonight, when I thought I was dying, you were the person I wished I'd been brave enough to tell the truth." His eyes widened slightly, the only crack in his controlled facade. Then he was kissing me again, softer this time, but no less intense. When he pulled back, he traced my bottom lip with his thumb. "You're not working tomorrow." "It's Christmas." "Then you're not working the day after either, or the day after that. You're staying here with me where I can keep an eye on you, where I know you're safe." It wasn't a request. "Nolan, Amelia." He said my name like a prayer and a curse all at once. "I've spent 2 years watching you from a distance. 2 years telling myself that you deserved better than a man like me. Tonight proved that I can't keep that distance anymore. I need you here. I need to know you're okay. So please just give me this. Give me Christmas." How could I say no to that? How could I do anything but nod, agreeing to something that would probably change my life forever? He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "Good. Now drink your tea before it gets cold. Then I'm going to run you a hot bath, lend you some clothes, and we're going to figure out what the hell we're doing. In that order?" "In that order." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Welcome to my home, Amelia. Something tells me you're going to be spending a lot of time here." As I sipped my tea and watched him move around the kitchen, already feeling like he was trying to take care of me in his own intense way, I realized that freezing in that parking lot might have been the best thing that ever happened to me, because it had led me here, to this moment, to him. And I had a feeling that this was just the beginning. The hot bath Nolan ran for me was probably the most luxurious thing I'd ever experienced. His master bathroom was the size of my entire bedroom, all black marble and chrome fixtures with a tub so deep I could sink into it up to my chin. He'd added some kind of bath oil that smelled like eucalyptus and vanilla, and the water was hot enough to make my skin pink. After hours in the cold, it felt like heaven. He'd left me alone to soak, but not before laying out clothes on the counter. One of his t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants with a drawstring. "Take your time," he'd said, those intense eyes lingering on me in a way that made heat pool low in my belly. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything." Now, submerged in the hot water, I finally had time to process everything that had happened. Nolan Ricci had saved my life. Nolan Ricci had kissed me. Nolan Ricci had basically just told me he wanted me to be part of his life. I touched my lips, still feeling the ghost of his kiss. It had been intense, overwhelming, like being caught in a riptide and deciding to stop fighting and just let it pull you under. Every instinct I had told me this was dangerous, that getting involved with a man like him was asking for trouble. But God, I wanted it anyway. Wanted him. I stayed in the bath until the water started to cool, then reluctantly climbed out and dried off with one of the impossibly soft towels. His clothes were huge on me. The t-shirt came down to mid-thigh, and I had to roll the sweatpants several times to keep them from falling off. But they were warm, and they smelled like him, and I found myself burying my nose in the shirt collar like some kind of lovesick teenager. When I finally made my way downstairs, following the sound of movement, I found Nolan in the kitchen again. He'd changed into jeans and a black Henley that hugged his muscular frame, his feet bare on the tile floor. It was such a casual, domestic look that it almost made me forget he was one of the most dangerous men in Chicago. Almost. He looked up when I entered, his eyes doing a slow sweep over me that made me very aware of the fact that I wasn't wearing a bra under his shirt. Better. Much better, thank you. I climbed back onto the bar stool, tucking my feet under me. What are you making? Hot chocolate. The real kind, not that instant crap. He was melting chocolate in a pot, adding milk and what looked like a touch of cinnamon. My mother's recipe. She used to make it every Christmas Eve. It was the most personal thing he'd ever shared with me. Used to. She died when I was 16. Cancer. He stirred the chocolate methodically, not looking at me. My father went a different way 3 years later. Heart attack, officially. But really, I think he died of a broken heart. I'm sorry. He shrugged, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. It was a long time ago. By then, I was already deep in the family business. My uncle took over, taught me everything I know. He died 5 years ago, left everything to me. He poured the hot chocolate into 2 mugs and slid one across to me. Merry Christmas, Amelia. I wrapped my hands around the mug, savoring the warmth. Merry Christmas. We drank in comfortable silence for a moment. The hot chocolate was incredible, rich and creamy with just a hint of spice. Outside, the snow was still falling, coating everything in white. In here, with the warm lighting and the heat from the drink, it felt almost cozy. Can I ask you something? I said finally. Anything. Earlier, you said you'd been watching me for 2 years. What did you mean? Nolan set down his mug, his expression unreadable. Exactly what I said. From the moment you started working for me, I noticed you. The way you concentrated when you were working through a problem. The little furrow you get between your eyebrows when the numbers don't add up. How you always stay late to make sure everything is perfect, even when no one would know if you cut corners. He leaned forward, elbows on the counter. You're dedicated, intelligent, and you have more integrity than most people in my world. That caught my attention. Just my work ethic? I couldn't help the slight edge of disappointment in my voice. His lips curved into a dangerous smile. No, not just that. I noticed other things too. Like how your hair catches the light when you're sitting by the window. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you look in those tight pencil skirts you wear to the office. His voice dropped lower, rougher. How much I wanted to mess up that professional image, to see what you looked like with your hair down and your walls dropped. Heat flooded through me. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because you deserved better than me. He said it simply, like it was an obvious fact. You're good, Amelia. Pure in a way that's rare in my world. I didn't want to corrupt that. What changed? Tonight. His jaw clenched. When I thought about you out there, alone, possibly dying because of my organization's failure, it made me realize that staying away from you wasn't protecting you. It was just making us both miserable, and life's too short for that kind of misery. I set down my mug and stood, moving around the counter until I was standing in front of him. He watched me approach like a predator tracking prey, but he didn't move. I placed my hands on his chest, feeling his heart thundering beneath my palms. I don't need protecting from you, Nolan. I need you to stop treating me like I'm going to break. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. Something snapped in his control. He stood abruptly, one hand tangling in my hair, the other wrapping around my waist to pull me flush against him. You want to know what being with me means? It means I'm possessive, obsessive. When something is mine, I protect it with everything I have. It means that every man who looks at you wrong will answer to me. It means your safety becomes my primary concern, whether you like it or not. I can live with that. Can you? His grip tightened slightly. Can you live with knowing that the man holding you has blood on his hands? That I've done things that would give you nightmares? That there are parts of my life I can never share with you because they're too dark? I met his eyes steadily. Everyone has darkness, Nolan. You're not the only one with secrets. That surprised him. What secrets could you possibly have? Why do you think I needed a job that paid well? No questions asked. Why do you think I was willing to work for a crime family? I took a deep breath. My little sister is sick. She needs treatment that insurance won't cover. Every penny I make goes to keeping her alive. So yes, I know what it's like to make morally gray choices. I know what it's like to do whatever it takes to protect someone you love. His expression softened, and he pulled me closer, gentler this time. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't relevant. You pay me to do a job and I do it. My personal life is my business. Not anymore. He pressed his forehead to mine. If you're mine, then your problems become my problems. Your sister, what does she need? Nolan, I wasn't telling you that to ask for. I'm not asking if you're asking. I'm telling you I'm going to help. What does she need? I felt tears prick my eyes. Experimental treatment for leukemia. It's expensive, and the insurance company considers it elective because there are other options, even though those options have a much lower success rate. Done. I'll have my people contact the hospital tomorrow. Money won't be an issue. I can't let you... He kissed me, silencing my protest. It was softer than before, almost tender. Yes, you can. This is what I do, Amelia. I take care of what's mine. And whether you're ready to admit it or not, you're mine now. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered me. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in my chest. Just like that. Just like that. He tucked a strand of wet hair behind my ear. Tomorrow, I'm going to wake up with you in my bed. I'm going to make you breakfast. Then I'm going to take you shopping because you'll need clothes if you're staying here. And then I'm going to deal with Marcus and anyone else who failed you today. What are you going to do to him? Do you really want to know? I considered that. Did I? Part of me, the logical, moral part, knew I should care, should insist on mercy. But another part of me, the part that had spent hours freezing in the snow, the part that was tired of being overlooked and forgotten, that part wanted Nolan to make Marcus pay. Will you kill him? No, but he'll wish I had. Nolan's voice was matter of fact. I'm going to make an example of him. Everyone in my organization needs to understand that your well-being is not negotiable. That failing you is the same as failing me. And after that, I'm coming home to you, and we're going to figure out what this is between us. His hand slid under the t-shirt I was wearing, his palm warm against the small of my back. Because I'm done pretending I don't want you. Done keeping my distance. I shivered, but not from cold. What if someone tries to use me against you? Like you said earlier? Then I'll bury them. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. I've spent years building my reputation, Amelia. People know better than to touch what's mine. But just in case, you'll have security. Constant, discreet, but always there. That sounds suffocating. That sounds necessary. His hand moved higher, tracing the line of my spine. I won't lose you. Not to my enemies, not to fate, not to anything. Do Do you understand? I nodded, unable to form words with his hands on me like that. Good. Now it's late, and you've had a traumatic day. Let me take you to bed. The way he said it made it clear he meant sleep, not anything else. Part of me was disappointed, but the rational part knew he was right. I was exhausted, emotionally and physically wrung out. His bedroom was on the second floor, another study in masculine luxury. The bed was enormous, with expensive linens and more pillows than any one person could possibly need. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the snowy landscape, and a fireplace crackled in the corner, casting dancing shadows across the walls. "You sleep here," I said, and it wasn't a question. Despite the size of the house, this room felt lived in a way the rest didn't. Personal. I do. And now, so will you. He pulled back the covers, gesturing for me to get in. When I hesitated, he raised an eyebrow. Having second thoughts. No, I've never done this before. Had a one-night stand? Had any kind of stand. The admission made me blush. I mean, I've dated, but nothing serious. Nothing that involved staying at someone's house or sleeping in their bed or any of this. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. Good. That means I'm your first for this. I like that. He moved closer, backing me toward the bed until my legs hit the mattress. Get in, Amelia. I promise I'll behave. Mostly. I climbed into the bed, sinking into the softest mattress I'd ever felt. He followed, pulling me against his chest and wrapping his arms around me. The position was intimate, protective, and surprisingly comfortable given his size. Thank you, I whispered into the darkness. For everything. For saving me. For caring. For this. His arms tightened around me. Stop thanking me. This is where you belong. Where you've always belonged. I wanted to argue, to point out how fast this was all moving, how crazy it was to go from employee to whatever we were now, in the span of a few hours. But lying there in his arms, warm and safe and wanted, I couldn't bring myself to care. Nolan? What happens after Christmas? He was quiet for a moment, his hand stroking through my hair in a soothing rhythm. After Christmas, we figure out our new normal. You keep working for me, but you live here. You let me take care of you and your sister. You let me show you what it means to be loved by someone like me. Loved. Did you think this was just physical for me? His voice was rough. I told you, Amelia, when something is mine, I protect it. I cherish it. I love it with everything I have. That's what you're getting yourself into. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it. We barely know each other. I know enough. I know you're strong and smart and loyal. I know you sacrifice everything for the people you love. I know that you see me, the real me, and you're not running away. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. That's all I need to know. I turned in his arms to face him, our noses almost touching in the dim light from the fireplace. I'm not running away, I confirmed. I'm staying right here. Good. He kissed me then, slow and deep, a promise of things to come. When he pulled back, his thumb traced my cheekbone. Now sleep. We have a lot to figure out tomorrow. I settled against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white. Inside, wrapped in Nolan Ricci's arms, I felt safer than I'd ever felt in my life. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was probably a terrible idea. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't bring myself to regret a single moment of it. Christmas Eve had almost killed me, but it had also given me something I'd never expected to find. A man who would move heaven and earth to keep me safe. A man who'd dropped everything to save me. A man who, despite all his darkness, looked at me like I was the light he'd been searching for. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new revelations about his world and mine. But tonight, I let myself just be. Be held, be wanted, be exactly where I was supposed to be. In the arms of a dangerous man who'd proven he'd do anything to protect me. And as sleep finally claimed me, I realized that freezing in that parking lot had been worth it, because it had led me here, to him, to this moment where everything changed, to the beginning of something that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure, to love, in the most unexpected place. I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving around downstairs. For a moment, I was disoriented, surrounded by expensive sheets and masculine scent. Then it all came rushing back. The snow, the cold, Nolan saving me. Nolan kissing me. Nolan telling me I was his. I sat up, pushing my hair out of my face. The clock on the nightstand read 9:30, which meant I'd slept for almost 10 hours. The space beside me in the bed was empty but still warm, and I found myself pressing my hand to it, savoring that residual heat. I should probably feel weird about all of this, about how fast everything had moved, but instead, I just felt right. Like some part of me had been waiting for this, for him, without even knowing it. I found my borrowed clothes from last night and padded downstairs, following the sound of activity. Nolan was in the kitchen, wearing jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that showcased his tattooed arms. He was cooking at the stove, his back to me, and for a moment I just watched him. This powerful, dangerous man, making breakfast in his bare feet like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Good morning," I said softly. He turned, and the smile that lit his face was worth every moment of terror from yesterday. "Morning, beautiful. How'd you sleep?" "Better than I have in years." I moved to the counter, accepting the coffee he slid toward me. "What are you making?" "French toast, bacon, and scrambled eggs. My mother used to make this every Christmas morning." He flipped something in the pan with practiced ease. "I thought we could use some good traditions today." The casual domesticity of it all was surreal. "Do you cook often?" "When I have time, which isn't as often as I'd like." He plated the food and brought it to the counter, settling on the stool beside me rather than across. Our thighs touched, and he seemed content to maintain that contact. "Eat. You need your strength." The food was incredible, perfectly cooked and seasoned. As we ate, Nolan's phone buzzed repeatedly on the counter. He ignored it the first few times, but finally glanced at the screen and frowned. "I need to take care of something," he said, his voice cooling into something more businesslike. "It won't take long. Marcus?" Among other things. He stood, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Stay here. There's a security system. Don't open the doors for anyone. I'll be back in a few hours." I grabbed his hand before he could leave. "Be careful." Something softened in his expression. "Always am." Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his enormous house. I spent the next hour exploring, unable to help my curiosity. The house was beautiful but sterile, like it had been professionally decorated but never truly lived in. Most of the rooms looked unused, guest bedrooms with perfectly made beds, a formal dining room that probably never saw dinner parties, a home office that was all business. The only room that felt personal was a small study on the second floor. Unlike the rest of the house, this space was cluttered with evidence of life. Books stacked on the desk, papers scattered across the surface, a half-empty bottle of scotch on the side table. The walls were covered with photos, and I found myself drawn to them. A younger Nolan, maybe 16, standing with an elegant older woman who had his eyes. His mother, I guessed. Another photo of him in his early 20s, already radiating danger and power, flanked by older men in suits. His uncle, probably, and other family members. More recent photos of him with various people, always formal, always controlled, never truly relaxed. Until I found one that made me stop. It was tucked in the corner, almost hidden. Me, sitting in the office late at night, caught in profile as I worked on my laptop. The photo was taken from a distance, like he'd been watching from the doorway. My hair was up in a messy bun, and I was biting my lip in concentration, completely unaware I was being observed. He'd kept a photo of me, in his private space. For how long? Find anything interesting? I spun to find Nolan leaning against the doorframe, watching me with those intense eyes. I hadn't even heard him come back. You have a picture of me, I said, gesturing to the wall. He pushed off the doorframe and moved into the room, coming to stand beside me. I have several pictures of you. That one's my favorite, though. You look so focused, so determined. Beautiful. How long have you had it? About a year. Took it myself one night when I came to check on something and found you still working. His hand came up to cut my face. I told myself it was inappropriate, that I should delete it. But I couldn't. Looking at it helped me get through rough days. My heart clenched. Nolan. I meant what I said last night, Amelia. This isn't new for me. I've been falling for you for a long time. I was just too much of a coward to do anything about it. He kissed me softly. How are you feeling today? Any lingering effects from yesterday? I'm fine. Good. Actually. I leaned into his touch. How did things go with Marcus? His expression darkened. He's been dealt with. So has everyone else who failed in their duties yesterday. It won't happen again. You didn't. Kill him? No. But he's no longer part of my organization. None of them are. I've made it clear that you're under my protection now. And anyone who forgets that will answer directly to me. His thumb traced my lower lip. You're safe, Amelia. I'll make sure of it. I believe you. Good. Now, we have some things to discuss. He took my hand and led me to the leather couch in the corner, pulling me down to sit beside him. First, your sister. I've already contacted the hospital. The treatment she needs is being arranged, fully covered. No questions asked. Tears pricked my eyes. Nolan, that's too much. It's not nearly enough. He wiped away a tear with his thumb. Second, your living situation. I want you to move in here, permanently. My breath caught. That's fast. I don't care. I'm done wasting time, done pretending I don't want you here, in my space, in my life. His hand tightened on mine. I know it's a lot to ask. But I need this. Need you where I can see you. Know you're safe. What about work? You keep your job if you want it, but you work from here or the main office, nowhere isolated, and you have security with you at all times when you leave the house. It was overwhelming, the speed at which my life was changing. But looking into his eyes, seeing the genuine concern in something deeper, something that looked a lot like love, I found I didn't want to fight it. Okay, I whispered. Relief flooded his features. Okay? Okay, I'll move in. I'll accept the security. I'll let you take care of me. I cupped his face, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw. Because I'm tired of fighting what I feel. I'm tired of being alone. And I want this. Want you. More than I've wanted anything. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, pouring everything he felt into it. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. There's something else, he said, his voice rough. Something you need to know about me. About my world. Tell me. He stood, running a hand through his hair in agitation. I'm not just a businessman with some shady connections, Amelia. I run one of the largest crime families in Chicago. Drug trafficking, arms dealing, money laundering. If it's illegal and profitable, I probably have a hand in it. I've killed people who threatened my family, my business. I've done things that would horrify you. I know what you are, Nolan. Do you? Do you really? He turned to face me, his expression tortured. Because there's knowing in the abstract, and knowing the reality. The reality is that being with me means accepting all of that. It means that sometimes I'll leave in the middle of the night to handle business. It means that you might see things, hear things, that will make you question whether you can live with this. I stood and moved to him, taking his hands in mine. I've been keeping your books for 2 years. I know where the money comes from. I know what you do. And yes, it scares me sometimes. But you know what scares me more? The thought of going back to my empty apartment and pretending I don't feel this. Pretending that being with you isn't exactly where I want to be. Even knowing what I am. Especially knowing what you are. I pressed my hand over his heart. Because I also know that you're the man who dropped everything to save me, who wants to help my sister without asking for anything in return, who looks at me like I'm precious. That's the man I see, Nolan, not just the crime boss. He pulled me against him, his arms wrapping around me like he was afraid I'd disappear. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, but you have me anyway. We stood like that for a long moment, just holding each other. Finally, he pulled back and smiled. Come on, we have one more thing to do today. What's that? It's Christmas. We should do something to celebrate. What we ended up doing was probably the most surreal Christmas I'd ever experienced. Nolan took me shopping first, insisting on buying me an entire wardrobe, even though I protested. Then we went back to his house and spent the afternoon cooking dinner together. A full Christmas feast that was way too much food for 2 people. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, laughing when I accidentally got flour everywhere and he retaliated by dabbing some on my nose, it struck me how normal this felt. How right. What are you thinking about? Nolan asked, catching my expression. Just this. Us. How yesterday I thought I was going to die alone in the snow, and today I'm here with you, cooking Christmas dinner and planning a future I never expected to have. He set down the knife he'd been using and pulled me close. You're never going to be alone again, Amelia. That's a promise. I'm going to hold you to that. Please do. Dinner was perfect. We ate at the kitchen island rather than the formal dining room, keeping things casual and comfortable. Nolan told me stories about his childhood Christmases before his mother got sick, and I shared memories of holidays with my sister before she got ill. After dinner, we moved to the living room where Nolan built a fire. We curled up on the couch together, his arms around me, watching the flames dance. I got you something, he said suddenly. Nolan, you've already done so much. Just let me spoil you, okay? He pulled a small box from his pocket and handed it to me. Inside was a necklace, a delicate gold chain with a small diamond pendant. Simple, elegant, and probably worth more than my car. It's beautiful, I breathed. It has a tracker in it, he admitted. I know that sounds controlling, but you need to know I'm safe, I finished. I understand. He took the necklace and fastened it around my neck, his fingers lingering on my skin. It's also just beautiful, like you. I saw it and thought of you. I turned to face him, the necklace warm against my skin. Thank you. For everything. For this whole day. Thank you for giving me a chance. For not running when you realized what I was asking of you. His hand cupped my face. For choosing me. Always, I whispered. I'll always choose you. He kissed me then, and this time there was no holding back. His hands moved over my body with purpose, and I arched into his touch, desperate for more. When he lifted me into his arms and carried me upstairs to his bedroom, I didn't protest. This was where I belonged, in his arms, in his life, in his heart. Later, wrapped in his sheets with his body warm against mine, I thought about how drastically my life had changed in 24 hours. How a near-death experience had led me to this, to love, to safety, to a future I'd never dared to dream of. What are you thinking? Nolan murmured against my hair. That I'm glad Marcus forgot about me yesterday. He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with concern. That's a hell of a thing to be glad about. It brought us here. If he hadn't forgotten me, if I hadn't been left in the snow, if you hadn't come looking for me, we might have kept dancing around each other for years, or maybe never gotten here at all. Understanding dawned in his eyes. So you're saying nearly dying was worth it? I'm saying that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. I traced the tattoo on his chest, an angel with a sword, protecting what looked like a rose. I'm saying that I don't regret any of it, because it led me to you. He kissed me softly. I'm still going to make Marcus pay for putting you in danger. I wouldn't expect anything less. Good. He settled back down, pulling me against his chest. Sleep, Amelia. Tomorrow we start our new life together. As I drifted off, safe and warm and loved, I realized that Christmas would never be the same for me. It would always be the day I almost died. The day Nolan saved me. The day everything changed. The day I found home in the most unexpected place, in the arms of a dangerous man with a surprisingly soft heart. A man who'd proven he'd do anything to protect what was his, and I was his. Completely, irrevocably, happily his. The snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the world in white, but inside, wrapped in Nolan's arms, I'd never felt warmer, never felt safer, never felt more loved. This was my future now. Our future. And I couldn't wait to see where it led. Because when you find someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves you anyway, someone who'd drop everything to save you, who'd move heaven and earth to keep you safe, you hold on tight and never let go. That's exactly what I plan to do. Merry Christmas to me, indeed. So what did you think of Nolan and Amelia's story? Do you think Nolan was right to punish Marcus so severely, even though it was an accident? Or should he have shown mercy because it was Christmas? Would you have given Nolan a second chance if you were in Amelia's position, knowing everything about his dangerous world? Here's what I want to know. Was Nolan's possessiveness romantic or too intense? Some of you might see his need to protect Amelia as the ultimate declaration of love. Others might think he was moving too fast, being too controlling. Where do you stand? And what about Amelia's choice to accept his world so quickly? Was she brave for embracing love despite the danger, or was she being reckless? If someone like Nolan walked into your life, powerful, dangerous, but completely devoted to you, would you take the leap like she did? Think about Marcus for a moment. Yes, he made a terrible mistake. But do you believe his punishment fit the crime? Nolan didn't kill him, but he destroyed his career and made an example of him. Was that justice or was it too harsh? Let me ask you this. Do you think Nolan and Amelia's relationship can survive long-term? Can love really conquer the darkness of his world, or is she setting herself up for heartbreak? Do you believe he can truly keep her safe, or will his enemies eventually find a way to use her against him? And here's the real question that's been on my mind. Was that Christmas Eve the best thing that ever happened to Amelia, or did it trap her in a gilded cage? Is she truly free if she needs security everywhere she goes, if her life is now controlled by Nolan's need to protect her? What would you have done differently if you were Amelia? Would you have insisted on maintaining more independence? Would you have demanded answers about his criminal activities before agreeing to stay? Or would you have done exactly what she did, trusted your heart, and taken the chance on love? I'm genuinely curious about your perspective. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Did Nolan's actions seem romantic or problematic? Was Amelia smart or naive? And most importantly, do you believe in their happily ever after? Or do you think this is just the calm before the storm? Your thoughts might just influence the next story I tell. So don't hold back. I want to hear everything you're thinking about this Christmas tale of danger, devotion, and a love that defied all logic. What's your verdict on Nolan and Amelia? I'm waiting to hear from you.